And we're back, Stripe Show podcast on a Tuesday. I'm your host, Travis Fulton. Thank you for making us part of your day. I have a guest today. You just can't see him. Perhaps you need to look a little closer. I don't know. But I promise he is there and he is live, and you're going to want to listen to him because I've been listening to him. We go way back, actually, 4 or 5 years ago when this whole gambling thing kind of started, and we did this show for the PGA Tour called well, shoot, I can't remember the exact name of it, but it was on Facebook Live, and we did it in the PGA Tour office, and it was a lot of fun, and we've stayed in touch since, and he comes back for his yearly predictions because they're good. He gives out the power rankings every single week for the PGA Tour. Rob Bolton, how you doing, bud?
Hey, buddy. Yeah, look, one of these years I'll figure out how to work out the technical stuff. I'm known for it. Unfortunately, I promise. I even showered and shaved for you today, and I can't prove that to you. Yeah, but it's a pleasure to be with you, and I can promise you, yes, this is me. And hey, thank you for again believing that I can have a positive impact on your audience.
Well, there's no question about that. I've seen it in action dozens and dozens of times. And I love the power rankings. I look at them every single week, and I've got them pulled up here. You can follow them on Twitter at Rob Bolton Golf. And, well, you know, I don't want to say it's a little easier this week, but there were 30. Unfortunately, we're down to 29 now. I'll tell you, Rob, this has to be the most costly injury in the history of professional golf. Will Zalatoris starting just off the lead. He has to withdraw because of his back. We're talking like in the neighborhood, the difference of 30th place money and first place money, which Will could have won, of $17.5 million. That's on. How do you sit there and just deal with that? That's incredible.
Yeah, really unfortunate. And the fact that he has two herniated discs was the message. Well, he's got to be in some pain. Anybody who's ever had a back injury, athlete or non-athlete, you know how debilitating that can be. So, yeah, I suppose one day he'll wake up when he's feeling pretty good and think about that fact. At the moment, he's obviously recovering, and he's going to miss the President's Cup now. So we'll see what that trajectory plays out this fall. But you say it's a little easier for the power rankings. I would say that depending on your perspective, it's actually harder because you already get that first. I always call it like a round that's already been completed, you know, and here we go. Here's the opening leaderboard, 10 under down to even par with now 29 guys. So you would think it would be easier, but in terms of it being harder, more people are expecting it to be more spot on. I've always said the power rankings, just philosophically, is not a prediction. It's an amalgamation of all sorts of variables that play into whatever event is immediately in front of us, and we just let that evidence come to us, and everybody has their process, and I have mine, and that's what the power rankings end up being this week. I had Zalatoris at 10. You know, he would have opened up third. So I mean, I was not expecting a good week, but I was giving him the benefit of the doubt until this morning. Cameron Smith is another guy. He's at 11 with the hip injury. Again, we don't know. Horrible timing, but these guys could go either way. Obviously, Zalatoris has already gone one way for good. Smith would be the other guy in the field this week. So, and you know, you got to respect the talent of the other guys. But you would think it'd be very difficult for a guy starting at even to crack the top 10. Billy Horschel did it last year, finished T9. It's rare. It's the highest jump anyone's ever made in the playoffs with this format. This is the fourth consecutive year that they've had the starting strokes. So yeah, we definitely have to look at the top of the top, and one of those guys should win.
Yeah, and we'll look at it. We'll kind of give it our thoughts on the players and kind of speak with strokes, without strokes. You can bet it both ways, where it's like a true 4-day tournament. Who do you think's going to have the best score? Or you can bet it with the strokes, you know, considered and where they're starting. And of course, Scheffler starting at -10 has a 2-shot lead. And then it kind of works on down depending upon where they finish. And you can get all that at PGAtour.com on where they're going to start. And we'll relate to it as we go through the podcast. But I want to make one quick comment here with Zalatoris, which is really unfortunate. It would be his first time playing here.
Yeah.
My calculation is there's 10 players in the field that have never played in the Tour Championship. that have never made it to this point. Of course, the defending champion is Patrick Cantlay, and for all intents and purposes, he looks like he might go ahead and repeat this thing. And as I look at your power rankings, you got Mr. Cantlay as number 1. So you think he's going to go ahead and make that jump of 2 strokes and take it to Scotty Scheffler?
Yeah. So for your first point, yeah, there are 10, well now 9 first timers in the event playing, and then both Brian Harmon and Aaron Wise have not played with the starting strokes, but they have seen East Lake, so the course experience and will play there. But I don't know how we get off Cantlay. I mean, there's all sorts of cosmic convergences this week with the guy, but just the way he plays, who he is. I mean, he could have the lead by the turn, on Thursday anyway. So those 2 strokes really mean nothing, and just the way he's been going. He's just a machine.
Mm-hmm.
And he's healthy. He's peaking at the right time. He got that first individual victory of the year last year. We saw him go back to back in the playoffs this year at this time, and he's the epitome of just hitting the next shot and not letting the last one bother him. I love that. That's really all you need to say about the guy, and just make sure that you save the start in whatever format you happen to play for fantasy, and then maybe multiply the investment, the units, if you're getting in a betting situation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Scheffler starting at 10, and then Cantlay's at 8. Will would have been at 7. Yep. Xander starting at 6. No one has played East Lake better than Xander. We'll get to him in a minute. My boy Sam Burns is a 5 back, starting at 5. And then you got 4 under, which is 6 back. Cameron Smith, Rory McIlroy, Tony Finau, Sepp Straka, Sung J M. 3 under, which is 7 back. John Rahm, who showed some life last week. Scott Stallings, Justin Thomas, Cameron Young, Matthew Fitzpatrick. And you go to 2 under, which is 8 back. Homa, Matsuyama, Spieth, Neiman, Hovland. 1 under, which is 9 back. Morikawa, Horschel, Hoge, Connors, Harmon. And then even par, which is 10 back. KH Lee, JT Poston, Sahith Theegala, Adam Scott, and Aaron Wise. So again, you can bet it with the strokes or without the strokes. I think if you go without the strokes, boy, it's hard to look past Xander, who was right there again late on a Sunday, didn't move it forward. Cantlay did to get the win. But we have seen Rob, and I've been critical of Xander late on Sundays, and I feel like he's showed me some things this year. He's definitely getting a little more comfortable. And if you're looking to bet without strokes and just head up, I mean, of course, Xander starting 4 back. You got to look at Xander too, don't you think?
Yeah, totally. Can't disagree. Really can't slight the guy. Former winner of the tournament, didn't win the FedEx Cup. That was the year Justin Rose took it, and then former low aggregate didn't win the FedEx Cup because he wasn't the lowest in relation to par. So this is kind of a third time. Probably could be the charm. He's 6 under. I just want to also add, just in case anybody is curious, because there's been questions about it already. Because Zalatoris is withdrawn, his 7 under remains vacated. So Schauffele stays at 6. Everyone stays where they are to open below him. It's the points are not reallocated. So suddenly, Cantlay, instead of having a two-stroke margin over or 1-stroke margin over his nearest pursuer, is now 2 strokes over Cantlay, or over Schauffele, pardon me. So just a little bit of a nuance there with the scoring, but yeah, Schauffele is an absolute monster on this course. The fact that he's only 4 under, four back to open, again, I mean, it's just a matter of getting out there and hitting the shots. But you're right. When it comes down to it on a Sunday, if he's sitting there at 1,000, 10-1 to win around the turn, I think you got to jump on that for live odds, because he's the kind of guy that could deliver on that. But it's also a bit of a slap in the face that he's still 10-1, at the turn on a Sunday with live odds. But that's the way it goes in that business. He's not the guy that runs away with it. He's much more in the grinder lane. He's in the Theegala, who you mentioned, who's in the again, a field player who plays on a lot of emotion. Xander doesn't show it necessarily, but a lot of confidence in the guy. And again, the surprise, I think, just to boil it down into a sentence, the surprise would be if he doesn't play well, and that's not the expectation whatsoever.
Yeah, absolutely. He seems like the safest play, as far as tackling East Lake, which is a golf course that's going to challenge all phases of your game. It's funny when you look at in the system, the rough. I see average length a lot. I mean, I've been to East Lake a couple times. I've played it a couple times. Let me tell you something. That rough is not average length. That rough is long, and it is penal. And I've been in it a few times, and it's like, my goodness, how do these guys get around this golf course, the way that they do? So, yes, you're going to see the driver, you're going to see the length being played out, but you got to keep it in the fairway here to go at it. I don't think proximity is going to be like closer than tour average. You're going to need a short game this week, and you're going to have to manage these Bermuda greens. I mean, you're going to have to kind of use all 14 clubs per se, which is, I think where the tour wants it. And last week, of course, length, I think, really played out. But Cantlay, yeah, I mean, you hit it on the head, right? He's just kind of one shot at a time, and he's kind of that perfect combination of got a little extra length, but he's pretty accurate, nice iron player, solid with wedges, excellent lag putter, makes everything inside 5. I mean, he's just, there's no weaknesses. And then he's got a little dog in him too. When he gets near the lead, he'll go get it, and you're going to have to beat him. So, yeah, I think up top there, Scheffler, I don't know if he's playing his best golf. I think I would give the edge to Cantlay. And then as we work our way down and we start getting into the next name that I want to throw out there, there's two names really at 3 under. One is JT. If there's one guy a ways back that can get on a heater and make the ultimate run and come back from 7 down, I would have to think it was JT. And per JT's brand last week, here we are, the last 2 tournaments, he's losing 3 strokes with the putter, can't hit anything, but we know that can turn around. I mean, we know he sees the ball go in the hole a couple times, 63, 64. I mean, I don't know. JT just feels like that guy that could come way back. And the other name I'll throw at you, and you can tell me which one you like more here, is John Rahm, who I think for all intents and purposes is playing his best golf right now. 5th at the FedEx St. Jude, 8 at BMW. He's had two of his last 3 tournaments have been his 2 best putting weeks all year. I mean, he's got to feel like, damn, my putter actually has a pulse. So he's got to feel like he's got a little confidence coming in. Who do you like, Rahm or JT in that 3 under?
Yeah, look, everybody above those guys on the opening leaderboard is staring exactly at those 2 guys.
Yep.
You gotta look at them. They'll be out. I think the tee times are out, right? They'll be out to ahead of you on the course, but they're going to be chasing you up that leaderboard pretty quickly. So it depends on look, they're going to be the ones that are going to express the most pressure or impress the most pressure on the guys they're chasing. Different thoughts on those guys. Rahm is in so much better form. I think it's a real upset that he's only 3 under to open. Speaking of a guy who expressed some emotion out there. Let's see what he can do. The opening round, I think, will tell everything, because if he starts strong, then he really, he could really win this thing, depending on how the other guys fare, of course. And it's always within that context this week. Everything we say about the court tournament is within the context of where they start. But he is trending so strongly right now and at the right time, and we know that once he finds that groove, he can hang on to it better than anybody. No one is better at that. So the fact that he's at 3 under is a benefit to the guys starting. So my confidence is much higher. That's why he's number 4 in the power rankings. But JT is only two clicks back at 6. And there's 2 things about him. Not only is he ridiculously strong on East Lake, where driver matters, and the par 5s, you got to take advantage of these par 5s. All things considered, they're among the easiest par 5s all season. Cantlay en route to victory last year birdied all 8 of them.
Wow.
To win, and he needed to, of course. But JT is the kind of guy who knows that he needs to do that, and he can go out there and do that. Just step on that driver and manhandle this place. The thing about him that I wonder how much has affected him is that when he started this season, Trav, you might remember last year's playoffs when he kind of turned a corner after winning the Players. There was a bit of a lull, and then he went gangbusters in the playoffs, and then he's basically sustained that since. Obviously winning the PGA, but just the consistently elite form since, but he's only 300 right now, and that has to be eating at him. So look out. But and he's again the kind of guy you'd expect to say, all right, hey, this is my week. I deserve to be better than 300. I'm going to go out there and prove it. And he's a guy that could throw up a 63 on Thursday. Before you know it, he's one or two back. Who knows? So yes, he's 6 in the power rankings. I've actually worked him into my PGA Tour fantasy golf lineup where I need some help. He's the kind of guy that should deliver in a course like this. Confidence is highest in him of all the guys. He and Rahm at 3 under and lower.
Right. Yeah, and what's interesting is the strategy here is because these guys are probably going to take some chances early. Because they have to if they're going to go try to win this thing, and that's the only way they can think. I mean, trust me, JT and Rahm are not thinking, well, if I do this, I'll get third, and if I get third, then I make this much more money than 7th. No, they're thinking, okay, here's what I'm going to go do to go win this thing, right? So strategy wise, you would have to think that's going to lend them to a little more risk and taking on some shots maybe that they normally wouldn't. How does that plan out? How does that pay out? And you gotta layer that into your betting. If you're thinking, I'm going to go ahead and bet this outright with no strokes, right? Because maybe it doesn't pan out and all of a sudden they blow up. But certainly Justin has the firepower. We've seen it time and time again. When he gets it going, he'll go unconscious. He'll black out and just birdie everything. Rahm, we know, can do that. I think Cameron Hank has a little bit of that in him too. I think Cameron Young, of all of these people, Rob, in this group, he is the most impressive to me this year. He has impressed me the most, the consistency that this guy has taken on. Let's go one layer up to 4 under. Cameron Smith hasn't bode well here. He has not played this course very well. I think how much of a conscious Cameron Smith has. I think he's going to live. I don't want to get into that. I think he's gone. I think if he is planning on showing up, playing the Tour Championship, accepts the money, and then announce it afterward, I don't think that's going to sit well with the players either. That's just my opinion. I don't know that. But I think Cameron plays with a bit of a conscience this week, and I don't think he's played well here at all. And I wouldn't be a bit surprised if he go ahead and he WD'd as well. Rory, look, 4 under. Rory can get it going. And I look back here with Rory. I thought he hit the ball very, very well at the BMW Championship. His putter was just awful. If he hits the ball like he did this week or last week, and he can get that putter turned around a little bit, I mean, Rory could run up this leaderboard too.
So your first point about JT and Rahm just going out there and getting the job done. One of the things I'll be paying attention to for the pre-tournament pressers is if any of the guys are asked, will they be leaderboard watching?
Yeah,
on Thursday, because it could influence some things with certain guys. They shouldn't be, right? I mean, if you're the coach, just go out. Look, the leaderboard will figure itself out. It's only Thursday. You can't win it. You can certainly lose it. That's that type of thing. The typical, but it's obviously not a typical week. I would like both of those guys to just keep the head down, put the blinders on, and go to work. Throw up a 65 and then maybe check it out. That type of thing. Because again, they're so far back to begin. Love Cam Young. Rookies at this tournament, first timers in general. Typically, there's just so much course history and value in the guys who are back. It's just tougher to beat them in a small field on a course that really rewards experience. You certainly, Young has all the skills. I mean, one of the best tee to green, and that's going to play up this week. But he's still a rookie. He's still a first timer, and the conservative in me, Trav, is just like, hey, just respect that a minute, And
yep.
I have a little further down. I like Cam Young maybe next year, but a top. I don't even think I have him in the top 20 of my power rankings, which he's 22, which figure in the starting strokes. So confidence is very cool, just because we have so many other forces in that stable this week. And then Rory, God, man, if there's a more frustrating golfer to watch, I'd like to know who it is.
Yeah.
Of the notables, that is, because I can't come up with one. I'm a big fan of everything he does, all of the decisions he makes, and then and it's like he just loses his focus. I don't know. There's nothing quantifiable about it. Yeah, I mean, you can point to the putting, but what led to that? I mean, he knows. I mean, he knows the place well enough. You typically see it early in the tournament. The guys are figuring it out. You know, they're getting the feels and the pulse and the souls of the green, and then they just lock in because they're professional golfers. And I've said this for, how many times have we seen Rory just get in his own way? He likes wants to try a new challenge, and like, because his B game is good enough to be top 10 in the world type of thing. But there's a mechanism in there, and became a dad. And it's like, everything was hunky dory, and he's still incredible, but he should be winning so much more often.
Mm-hmm.
We know this.
Yeah.
Why? It's got to be between the ears. I don't know.
I agree. No, I've said it many times. I think he loses focus. He saw it last week. What was it, Thursday? I mean, he starts like Rory. He's 4 or 5 under, and then he makes
number one on tour in round 1 scoring average.
And he makes
one on tour adjusted scoring average.
Yeah, it just makes no sense. I feel like I just bang my head every week with Rory over and over again with gosh, you can look at the driver +5.5, irons +3, and like, oh my God, -4, and putting, it is. It is. And you start thinking Eastlake, man, if he drives it like he did last week at Eastlake, and all of a sudden he goes +2 putting, it's like, oh boy, here he comes, but it's Rory. You don't know. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised to see he goes out in 31 and then makes a silly double coming in. You go down the list here. Speaking of frustration, I think if Victor Hovland's looking at his year, I don't think Victor Hovland is overly pleased by the year that he's had. He started very well. He was 4th at the Genesis, 2nd on Arnold Palmer, 9th at the Players. But outside of that, you go through the rest of the year. He played good at the Open. He was 4th. But in these playoffs, he just hasn't been relevant at all outside of the Open Championship. And I don't know this, but I just feel like he's put a lot of time into a short game technique. I don't think he's getting a whole lot out of it on the golf course. I would have to think that's bled into a little bit of his ball striking. His iron game hasn't been as sharp as we've seen it in the past. His driver, not as sharp. I think Victor, in my estimation, has to look at this year and be like, man, I'm better than this. What do you think?
I dig the perspective. I think also, he comes on with the gangbusters 3 years ago now, right? And he sets that bar that's so high and so unfair, I think, to a man early on, but yet he continued to deliver, and we get comfortable with that, right? That's just who we are as fans. And then our expectations stay at that level. And then all of a sudden he has a few hiccups, as all golfers will do. It's the game. I'm sort of keen on the point. If he's spending more time on the short game, how much is he letting the other elements of his game go? That's really interesting. Probably part of a major component of why there's been a slide. I wrote in the power rankings, he's 23. By no means is it a surprise to see him here, but it's a little bit of a peek behind my curtain in terms of, Victor qualified. Wow. Forgot he had that incredible first half. And then I do look at, he and Morikawa at the Zurich Classic, they made the cut on the number. It was a tough week for them. Putting is not their strong suit, either of them, and they were able to sneak in. They didn't have a good weekend by any means, but it's that time of the year where, Trev, you just think about all the, starting with the Players, and then you got the match play, you got the Masters, you got the team competition, and you have major. You go overseas. There's not a lot of routine to it, and typically with the younger golfers in the macro, we see them have a tougher time. Oh, by the way, the courses are also more difficult come springtime. So you have all of these factors contributing to this massive equation, and you're expecting a guy like Victor Hovland, who started gangbusters in the summer of 19 after this particular part of the season, expect him to play well week after week after week with all these changes. Some of the younger players love that. They want that sort of muscle confusion, to use a term from, something else. But that's kind of the idea, right? It's like, I get to do this week. I'm excited about that. I get to change and do this week. But at the same time, it's still golf. It's still different variables that we all look at all the time. But nevertheless, Not everybody is completely equipped for it, especially the guy of his age. What's he, 23, something like that? So I give the leash is a little bit further out for the guy. The slack is a little bit looser for a guy like that. But as it pertains to Eastlake specifically, that is at 2 under. I have him at 23 in the power rankings. It's about where I expect him to finish, but kind of have an even par week relative to the field. And then deposit the check and start anew in the fall. He's going to have a bit of a break. That's probably going to serve him justice. The courses will get easier, fields will thin, and we'll see how much he plays in the fall. But I'm looking for a bigger 2022-23 season than I'm looking for this week in terms of a 1 week performance from Victor Hovland at the finale.
Yep. No, that's well said. Yeah, I think that's well said with Hovland. He's in that group with Neiman and Spieth, Matsuyama, who we don't know. Homa, how's he going to do here? First time for Max in the Tour Championship. All right, let's go down to these last 10 players, 1 under an even par. And if you had to just kind of speak here to no strokes, maybe who you like the most. Let's start with the 1 under. There's Morikawa, Horschel, Hoagie, Connors, and Harmon. I was all over Connors last week to win. That was my dark horse. I was like, if he can just have a pulse and have his head above water around the greens and putting, and he couldn't do it. I mean, he hit the ball as good as Cantlay, and he just couldn't keep his head above water, chipping and putting. And if he does, he wins because he's that good of a ball striker off the tee and approach. So in this, I'll say of these 5, give me Connors. I'm such a damn homer. Who would you pick out of those 5 to do the best this week?
Yeah, yeah. It's addiction because you're a user, right?
That's bad.
I'm with you. Connors 18 and the power rankings. He's right there above one notch above Harmon at 19. Connors, from a mental standpoint for me, when I'm doing my work, he's the Canadian version of Victor Hovland, who we just talked about. I mean, basically the same archetype, a little more experience, of course. But it just is frustrating. I think it's hard not to be a Connors fan. Though, just to see him having a good time out there and seeing what happens. But when you're invested, you got to kind of retreat back into a top 10 scenario situation if you want to stay happy. In this situation, even with strokes applying a top 20, if you can find it for Connors, even at even money, hey man, I'd jump all over that. In terms of without strokes, top 10. I mean, that's the kind of fit he is for Eastlake. Go ahead and reach.
I agree. Yep. No, I totally agree. I think that's kind of where I was. That's where I was tracking. And with Connors, I mean, man, you talk about driver and irons peering it last week. Jesus, I mean, absolute stripe show. But then he misses the green, and you're just like, oh my god,
he'd be great in a scramble, right? So what you're saying?
Hold your breath. I tell you start going down to these even pars, right? KH Lee, who's had a great year. I mean, goodness gracious. KH Lee, JT Poston, congratulations. Sahith Thagala, who was a Korn Ferry Tour graduate in the 25 last year, has arrived onto the scene. And then there's the old wily veteran, Adam Scott. And then there's that name, Aaron Wise, who will suck the money right out of your wallet too. But, in these 5, I'll tell you what, Adam Scott found something here with the putter last couple weeks. Because it wasn't pretty up to that point. The last 2 weeks, FedEx, St. Jude, Memphis, positive 6.4, BMW Championship in Delaware, positive 2.8. Rest of the game, kind of where it usually is. I mean, he putts like that. I would have to say he's your guy that of these 5. But I know Sahith is a rookie and he'll be pushed down and some of these other guys. But if we're just talking just these 5 here, who does the best? I mean, it's kind of so hard not to like this Thagala kid. I just love his short. I love the way he hits shots around the green.
Yeah.
I think you'll see some magic from him in the Bermuda this week as well. Give me your thoughts on these 5.
Just love how much of a field player he is. He really turns back the clock, and he showcases that, and obviously has that raw talent and all of the pieces to go with it. I mean, When I was writing him up yesterday, I was thinking, man, I can't wait to see what he does for a full season as a sophomore, and wait till the third year. The third year is when these guys typically explode. Once they've figured out where they want to play, they get comfortable with where they want to stay, and then they can't wait to return. Then obviously we're going to be evolving into a calendar year thing here come 24. So things will continue to evolve for him, but he's ready for it. I think it's just a bonus that he's in the field. Lee, he's just happy to be there as well. I think he's expended all of his energy just to get here, so that he's 28th and not lower in the power rankings is more of a confidence builder for him. Poston again, a guy who maybe exerted a little bit too much energy in the interim until now. Again, happy to be here, but still has a little bit of a spark. Not looking for great things this week. Love the guy, just maybe right. It's a little bit past that short-term prime. So Aaron Wise is in the field because Taylor Gooch is no longer a PGA Tour member. Gooch would have been here without even playing the playoffs. So Wise creeps into number 30, gets the exemptions into the 3 majors next season. Carte blanche schedule coming up for the guy. He deserves it, of course. Didn't win, but Wise that is, and here he is with a chance at 18 mil. Crazy, great story. Playing really well, does everything he needs to do, tee to green, and he loves himself. As I said, Zoysia fairways. We know that he wanted Trinity Forest on those things. That ended up being the narrative of the week. And he's a guy who's figured it out after having a little bit of an early career lull. And what is he? Is he like 24, 25 still, Trav? I mean, he's still younger than a lot of people realize. But Adam Scott's the guy, number 15 at the power rankings.
Yep.
You commented about his putting. He's actually, I don't have the numbers right in front of me, but he's actually been much better putter than most people realize for a longer period of time. It's just that he doesn't display it as often, sort of right in front of us. But the numbers will support it, and he's always been obviously one of the best tee to green. And here he is at a place where he's won before. It's been a while, but his success is documented. He's the kind of guy with a target on his back, with absolutely everything to gain, nothing to lose. And he comes out of that even par with the real potential to make some noise. I have him actually finishing above Scott Stallings, who starts at 3 under and comes in even hotter potentially than you. I mean, you can make that case either way, but Stallings with everything to gain this week, and I just give Scott a lot more actually credit for his course history here, knowing where to miss, understanding the greens. There's no changes from when he was here last, so I'm respecting that.
Yeah, you look at last 5 rounds. I mean, he doesn't have, because he only played in 19, but he gained strokes here. So there's certainly course history here for Adam Scott. Both Scott and Aaron Wise have had to kind of reteach themselves how to putt, that long broomstick putter. But yeah, I agree. I think Adam Scott deserves more credit for the kind of putter that he is. That's the hard part. When you get that label, it's hard to shake it. But when you look closer, there's been, when you look closer, he has had some success with it, in particularly the last 2 weeks. It's interesting with Thegal, and I'll finish with this. He had his worst driving week of the year last week at the BMW Championship and still finished 15th. That just shows you the magic that he has. He's a scorer is what he is, and he's one of those guys that he kind of gets the most out of whatever's happening, whatever that version of him is that day. And he reminds me of Spieth a little bit in the way he plays the game and gets the most out of it. So, I'm a fan of Thegal. Certainly doesn't have the course history as Adam Scott. So as you look down there at the bottom, Adam Scott certainly feels like the safest play to make a run up the board. All of them playing for $18 million first. But what would you do with 18 mil? What was the first thing you would get, Rob?
Oh, I'm too old to play those games because it's never going to happen. A, it's never going to happen. B, I'll never have that kind of money. And fourth, it's just I'd rather sort of live vicariously through your dreams because they're going to be so much better than mine. I'm going to throw the same question at you.
Well, I think I would buy a second house in the north somewhere where it's not so freaking hot.
You haven't given this any thought, but go on.
I'm just saying, I would get on a lake
Yeah.
Maybe back to my roots up in northern Idaho on Hayden Lake or somewhere in North Carolina. I don't know. Like, I need something where I don't walk out my door. It's 9:30 in the morning and I'm sweating by the time I get to my car. Like, I don't want to walk out and my glasses to be fogged up. I don't want that.
Yeah, Florida's rough. Florida's rough.
I love.
By the way, Adam Scott, fourth in the T4 in the playoffs in greens hit and third in strokes gained. I mean, if you're going to have a recipe for success in any tournament, hit the greens and make the putts. Eastlake has rewarded that. It's going to be a little bit softer this week because there's going to be some rain. He's got the length off the tee. It's too bad he's starting it even, man, because if he was like at 5, he might make a run at it.
Well, I think from without strokes, I think you got to look at Adam Scott potentially.
True. Yeah, right. So, by the way, you mentioned it, Sam Burns. I would be remiss if I didn't hop in late here.
Go ahead.
22-1 to win without starting strokes. He's the perfect guy to finish last or to finish first. So if you're going to throw a half a unit even just at a guy to do that, to have a little bit of a run, he's my exciting play of the week. Sam Burns at 22-1 to win. Without starting strokes.
Bermuda Burns, fast Bermuda greens, like a younger version of Billy Horschel, but he's got length. And people, I've been touting Burns forever. Like, I'm a homer. I've been on every one. It's an automatic bet for me with Burns. So I've been on every one of his wins, the 4 wins that he's had.
You got to be loving that then.
Oh yeah, I mean, I've made money on Sam Burns. There's no question with his career, no question. But starting this far back. But yeah, anytime you start getting on these Bermuda greens with Sam, I kind of getting closer to home here. He went over in Louisiana. He finished? He's had top 20 in the first 2 events. His iron game wasn't great last week, but he can fill it up. I love Sam Burns. Love his game. I'd love to see him make a run up the leaderboard, starting 5 back. It just seems like a tall task. It does feel like Cantlay is going to do this, but I don't know, man. Maybe we get fireworks here. Maybe, Scheffler's he's 75 and, Cantlay all of a sudden just 76. And like, what, where are we now? At that point.
Well, if you want some fireworks, we'll just, we might close here. I know it's your show, but I'm just thinking
give it to me. Here we go.
It's like, we have the one guy we haven't talked about is the guy who delivers nothing but fireworks. That's Sanjay M, who starts at six back at 4 under, number 7 in the power rankings, on a crazy good run right now. Had the back-to-back runner-up finishes, a couple top 15s since, has experience at East Lake. So,
all right,
he's lurking. If any of these guys qualify to be lurking, it's basically because of their opening position, not because of their pedigree, their cachet. But him sitting there at only 6 back, so he's the guy. And the guy again opens up at 63. I mean, that's going to be possible this week with this turf.
Yep.
It's going to be fascinating. I think you'll get your fireworks no matter what it is. I just don't know if you're going to be satisfied with who it is.
Well, if I had to pick, I mean, I picked at the beginning Will to win the playoffs, and I was looking really damn good after the week 1, and now here we are. So I can't now jump back in, but I think for the game, considering the temperature of the situation of everything that's going on in professional golf, I mean, the PGA Tour and this and that. I mean, look, I would love to see Rory make the charge and win. Like that to me feels the most appropriate. JT would probably be a close second. And then, I think outside of that, I mean, no offense to Cantlay. I like Patrick Cantlay. His coach is one of my favorite people, Jamie Mulligan. I mean, I would love then to see if it's not one of those two, then let Scheffler round this thing off. Excellent year.
Yeah.
And be that young, fresh face for us, right, for the PGA Tour going in the next season.
My only pushback on any of that would be Rory. I'd already kind of done that at the Canadian Open.
Yeah,
sort of that statement. Hey, this is what you're going to get if you come at us. We don't we're not cornered, and he did that. So, but this is really say that this is probably the next best opportunity. Yeah, certainly the FedEx Cup. What do you think?
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely.
Don't downplay this now, right?
And I want to replay it like with when Furyk won it. It was raining. I want the hat on backwards, right. And I want I want the theatrics, and Rory deserves it because when you look back to when Tiger won, who was playing with Tiger when all those people crowded 18? Rory. And people forget like how just insignificant Rory became when Tiger was there, right? And I kind of felt bad for Rory. It was an unbelievable moment, but I love Rory and what he's done for the game, and he just kind of got engulfed by it. And now, full circle, everything that's going on, I'd love to see Rory kind of have that moment, you know, to put the cherry on top.
Well, there's only room for one on Tiger Woods stage. So, and Rory knows that.
Well, yeah, I mean, yeah, he's I mean, it was nothing that Rory did by any stretch. I mean, that was one of the most surreal moments of professional golf.
It probably fired him up too. Hey, that could have been me.
Yeah.
You know, he was right there. It could have been me, but then he gets, you know, sort of the de facto front row seat, despite being a competitor. So, you know, the golf fan in him, the historian in him is going to appreciate that, obviously.
I'd love to see Tiger show up the final day for the ceremony.
Ooh. Now you're talking about theatrics, right?
I mean, I know he won't, but
you know some people. You could make a phone call.
I'll text Tiger right now. Let's see.
There you go.
See if he responds. I don't think that's not. I don't have his.
let me fire him up on my brick slider for a moment.
All right, there you have it. Rob Bolton. Can't thank you enough. Tour champ. Take a deep breath. Get your what is it? You get a week off. 2 weeks before we fire it up again. What is it? 1 week? 2?
So we got Corn Ferry Tour Championship. Then we got week off, and then Fortinet.
Yeah, there we go. 2 weeks.
In the meantime, I'll be working on my full membership fantasy ranking for the 2022-23 season. About 250 guys, which is always a fun project. So I'll be immersed in watching everything.
All right, there you have it. Go follow him, Rob Bolton at Rob. Where are we at Rob Bolton Golf. That's what it is on Twitter. You're the man. We'll do it again next year.
You're the best, pal. Thanks again.